The morning I found a letter duct-taped to my mailbox demanding over $3,000 in unpaid HOA dues. I never agreed to. I realized I wasn't just in a neighborhood dispute anymore. I was in a war. Weeks earlier, strangers had torn up my garden. My trash service was canceled under my name, and a neighbor whispered that I'd be fined into foreclosure. All of this came from a woman named Deborah Whitmore, the self-proclaimed queen of Oakrest Meadows HOA, a board I wasn't even part of. When I first met her, she marched across my freshly paved driveway like she owned the concrete under her feet. Clipboard in hand, fluorescent pink Crocs slapping against the gravel chin high like she was inspecting troops. She pointed at my truck, a black F-150, my pride and joy. "You can't park that eyesore in the driveway," she snapped like I'd just rolled in with a rusted-out junker. I blinked and said flatly, "Ma'am, I'm not in your HOA." That didn't slow her down. She flipped her clipboard, pretended to skim a page, and declared that all houses on Cedar Elm Court, mine included, were under her kingdom. I told her I'd check the maps, the legal documents, every line my property ended 30 feet outside the HOA. She just glared, muttered, "We'll see about that," and stormed off. I thought it would end there. I was wrong. 3 days later, I found a violation notice taped to my front door. Not mailed, taped, fining me $200 for non-compliant lawn edging. My lawn wasn't even edged yet. I called the number on the slip, and Deborah herself answered. "You are now under HOA jurisdiction," she said smugly. "We voted to annex your property. You'll be paying like everyone else." My jaw clenched. "That's not how it works. You can't just vote me in." Her voice dropped an octave. "We absolutely can. You'll be hearing from our lawyer." And I did. 2 days later, I was served papers. Deborah, on behalf of the Oakrest Meadows HOA, was suing me for nearly $2,000 in back dues plus penalties. My lawyer, Vince Maddox, chuckled when he saw the complaint. "She's got no standing. This will be fun." Fun wasn't how I'd describe it. I was bleeding money, losing sleep, and wondering if I'd just made the worst decision of my life moving here. I went to the county records office myself. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. The clerk slid me the old plats and housing covenants. My property line was clear. The HOAs ended 30 feet short. No overlap, no claim. I took pictures, copies, everything. I thought maybe finally I had the upper hand. But then I spotted a sedan idling near my house. A woman in the passenger seat snapped photos of my yard. The moment I looked, the car peeled away. Things got nastier fast. A landscaping crew showed up one Thursday morning with work orders signed by the HOA. They started ripping up my flower beds, edging into soil I'd just planted. I came out shouting, and they looked confused, said they were told this was common area maintenance. It wasn't. It was trespassing. I chased them off, filed a police report, and handed over my security footage. The officer, Ruiz, later confirmed the order had Deborah's name typed in but no signature. She was playing dirty. That weekend came another blow. A fake-looking lien notice taped to my mailbox claiming I owed thousands in dues and late fees. Vince skimmed it and shook his head. "This isn't just harassment anymore. This is fraud." He filed a counterclaim. But while he was drafting motions, my trash wasn't picked up. Everyone else's bins were emptied, mine stood full. I called the city. Someone had submitted a cancellation request for my address. Deborah again. By then, I was cracking. Nights went sleepless. My savings dwindled from legal fees. I found myself standing in my own kitchen staring at that stack of notices, wondering, what if she wins? What if I'm the crazy one here fighting a battle I can't afford? For a split second, I thought about selling, just leaving, walking away from the mess. It felt like the only way to breathe again. But then, Mr. Tran, my retired Navy engineer neighbor, knocked on my door. He told me Deborah was going door to door, pressuring residents to sign a petition to annex my home, warning them they'd all pay fines if they didn't. His face was hard, his voice steady. "She's been terrorizing people for years. You're not alone." That cracked something inside me. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't wrong, and I wasn't quitting. The tide turned when Emilio Alvarez showed up, former HOA treasurer, kicked out by Deborah. He carried a duffel bag of documents, bank statements, emails, proof she'd been siphoning HOA funds into a shell company. Spa trips, first-class flights, patio furniture. She wasn't just harassing me. She was robbing everyone. Emilio handed everything over to Vince, who connected with financial crimes investigators. Suddenly, this wasn't just my fight, it was a case. When the court date came, I walked into that room with a 3-inch binder and a knot in my gut. Deborah strutted in wearing a leopard print blazer and stilettos that clicked like gunfire. She was flanked by 2 board members, one of whom looked like he'd rather disappear. Judge Lang wasted no time. "Jurisdiction, first," she said. Vince laid out the plats, the deeds, the affidavits. Clear as daylight, my house wasn't in Oakrest Meadows. Deborah shot up from her seat. "We voted to include his property last year. It's in the minutes." The judge cut her off cold. "Your minutes are not legally binding. You never filed amendments, and you cannot annex property without the owner's consent." Deborah sputtered, but Judge Lang wasn't done. She pulled up the fake lien notice, the unsigned work orders, the police report. "You ordered unauthorized work, falsified documents, interfered with municipal services. That is fraud and trespass." Deborah tried to interrupt. It was for the good of the community, but the judge's voice cracked like a whip. "The community's welfare does not give you license to break the law." She froze the HOA's authority on the spot, placed them under court supervision, and removed Deborah from the board effective immediately. Deborah's face went pale, then blotchy red. She hissed across the aisle at me, "This isn't over." Judge Lang didn't even look up. "It is for you, Mrs. Whitmore." The collapse was quick after that. Investigators confirmed Emilio's documents. Deborah had siphoned tens of thousands. News crews caught her outside her house waving a broom at cameras. Days later, sheriff's deputies walked her out in handcuffs, wire fraud, embezzlement, falsifying records. She looked hollow as the cuffs clicked shut, like the power had drained out of her bones. But the real hammer fell in a special court session. The judge reviewed every scrap of evidence: fraudulent fines, forged amendments, stolen funds. And then she said the words that sent shockwaves through the room. "The Oakrest Meadows Homeowners Association is hereby dissolved effective immediately." Gasps erupted. Some neighbors clapped. Others sat stunned, misaud. Just exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for months. Deborah was finished. Her empire was gone. And that was it, the moment the tyrant with a clipboard finally fell. Sometimes standing your ground is all it takes to bring down a bully.